Thank you for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. The country of France has been given hard another blow by the country of Ivory Coast. Ivory Coast has asked French troops to leave the country. That's the latest African country to do so, considering Chad, Senegal, and Mali, Burkina Faso, and the rest. There is something actually going on here. Ivory Coast announced on Tuesday that French troops will leave the country after a decade-long military presence. It is the latest African nation to downscale military ties with its former colonial power. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara said the pull-out will begin in January. France has had many as 600 troops in Ivory Coast. This is incredible. I think this is a big blow to the country of France. I would say that it's a total disgrace that France's African policy has crumbled. According to the statement, we have decided on the concerted and organized withdrawal of France's forces in Ivory Coast, the president said, adding that the military infantry battalion of Port-Beu, that is run by the French army, will be handed over to Ivorian troops. That's a big blow there. Ouattara's announcement followed that of other leaders across West Africa. Whether France's military is being asked to leave, analysts have described the move as part of a wider structural transformation in the regions engaging with Paris. I think France has a problem here. France's strategic engagement and its attitude of condescending behavior, looking at these countries as if they are not important, is causing France. And this notion that France has it all, it can make the decision for these countries, is falling on deaf ears. Look at what happened across the Sahel. It is interesting that the country of France is succumbing to the pressure from these countries. If Ivory Coast of all, a country that will be considered as a puppet for France, taking this decision, whatever the implication is behind the arrangement, who cares? But the bottom line here is that France will leave the country. Ouattara's announcement is important. Why is that? Several West African nations, including Cote Mali, put it that way, Burkina Faso, and Niger, have recently asked the French to leave the country. What's actually going on with France, to be honest? Most recently, Senegal and Chad did the same. Chad is considered France's most stable and loyal partner in Africa. You remember when France president visited the country of Chad when Idriss Deby was assassinated, considering what happened in that part of the country with the civil wars going on with the rebels, and the sun was coming in. You saw the French president comfortably sitting there and allowing that transition to take place while criticizing other transitions in West African countries. France's double standard in the region is costing France enormously. It is a big challenge for the country of France. We've been talking about the failed France policy in the continent of Africa. Even Emmanuel Macron himself, the current French president, who have tried to kind of basically reorganize the relationship, try to reset, as experts will put it, is falling on deaf ears. France has faced enormous embarrassment across the continent of Africa from a whole lot of other regions. I think this goes a long way to send a message to other Africa's geopolitical partners. France in particular has a horrible colonial history in the continent of Africa, and this hasn't gone well with regards to the African people. It is a shame that at the end of the day, despite the accumulated wealth that France has taken from these so-called, in quote, poor countries in the continent of Africa, that has enormous worth. Now they're beginning to wake up, like the former iconic reggae artist Bob Marley said, you can fool some people sometimes, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. I hope I get it right there. The downscaling of military ties comes as France has been making efforts to revive its waning political and military influence on the continent of Africa by devising a new military strategy that will sharply reduce its presence and the troops in the continent of Africa. I think that France has listened to what's going on in the region, and they understand that it's not going to be business as usual. And the only way for this to work, if Ivory Coast of all, that you will term them to be a puppet, like I earlier said, taking this strategic choice or making this strategic decision, then there is a problem with France's attitude in the continent of Africa. Let me say this also. France has now been kicked out of more than 70% of African countries where it had a troop presence since ending the colonial rule. I think France's colonial history is a huge baggage for the country of France, and France will continue to struggle on a daily basis. The monetary union, the strategic engagement, the resources, uranium, the prices that are being bought, all of these countries have been crying, but France failed to listen. I think some level of fresh air will come into play with regards to these countries and how they can engage on their own strategic future. The French remains only in Djibouti, and who knows what's going through the mind of Djibouti at the moment, with 1,500 soldiers, and Gabon with over 350 troops at the moment. So we all continue to think on what's going on in the head of Gabon at the moment and also in Djibouti, because this trend can trigger what's going to be happening in those areas. France has been placed in the spot that it's supposed to be. Because over the years, before even the arrival of the Chinese, France has neglected the continent of Africa and hasn't invested to an extent. Language alone is not enough. You cannot find your way through because of language. So the current decision by the country of Ivory Coast is, to me, as a geopolitical analyst, it's not new. I think France would have gotten this message long time ago. After expelling French troops, military leaders of Niger, call them military leaders, say that they are leaders of those countries, whatever you want to put it from a strategic and geopolitical terms, Mali and Burkina Faso have moved closer to other strategic partners like the United States, remember, and Russia. Despite that engagement, those countries haven't said they don't want to work with everyone. These countries want, the countries of the Sahel, they want a level playing field. And France is not giving them this. They want to be flexible. This actually has also given Russia and other strategic partners an upper hand to engage those countries in the Sahel region. And I will say that France only has itself to blame from this attitude of ignorance, the attitude of diverting, this attitude of condescending, this attitude of unequal partnership, this attitude of unequal relationship in the strategic engagement and the geopolitical sphere. It what weakens major powers. The United States of America learned this the hard way when it was asked to get out of Niger, dismantling its over 110 million US dollar drone base in that country. I think that was a big blow for the United States and a total failure by President Joe Biden, who is lame duck at the moment, a leader, as his term in the United States, as we all will see where Trump comes in and what's going to happen. The scrutiny situation has worsened in a number of those regions because they are increasingly focusing on what matters for them. Over the years, France's colonial history has destroyed the fabric in terms of strategic engagement with those countries. That's the reason why leaders of these regions are beginning to think that they were not safe with France's troops in the country. According to one of America's strategic political analysts who said 20 years ago, just as 20 years ago, this would never have happened. I mean, all these coups you see in West Africa would never have happened. France would have engaged all of a sudden and bring down this particular government or military, whatever. It would have intruded in those particular France's influence in the region. All of these things are difficult. So I think it's a good thing for France that this country is asking France, especially Ivory Coast. It's an opportunity for France to take a step back and look at the mirror and say, wow, I messed it up. Now is the time for me to go back and ask for forgiveness, and let's work on a partnership of equal. This is what these countries want. Whatever you think about it, I think Ivory Coast has made the biggest decision in 2024 December, I would say. I mean, it was a couple of hours ago as the news broken out, and we all see it. But again, Ivory Coast asked French troops to leave. It's a big fundamental geopolitical shift in the continent of Africa. I want to thank you for watching. Leave your comment below. Let me know what you think with regards to this strategic decision by the country of Ivory Coast, and who know what Djibouti and the country of Gabon are thinking at the moment. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.